Nope, 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 nope. Yeah. What's going on YouTube? Levi at Old Iron Off-Road. If you're a returning viewer, thanks for watching. And if you are new to the channel, reach down there and click that subscribe button and check it out if you're into four-wheel drives, off-road, international scouts, or just dumb shenanigans. We get into all types of things. We're back out here today on our Project Yogi, our overland adventure rig. And if you watched the previous video, you actually saw us remove the old drivetrain that was worn out and tired and get a new 6-liter GM truck engine set into place. We have actually finalized our placement with some shimmying and shaking. I'm not going to bore you with any footage from that, but I am super happy with where it's at. And today we're going to start connecting the dots, and I'm going to walk you through how I go about doing this. Now, we do have a plasma table. If you haven't watched that video, check it out. So with the plasma table at our disposal, it definitely makes our life easier. And the intention here is to build a set of motor mounts that we can click play on the plasma cutter and make a drop-in LS, 4L60, 4L80, Dana 300. Those are our typical combos with the specific headers that we use. Just make it just like that, right into the engine compartment. A couple of things I want to mention is I am not super familiar with design programs. I can fumble my way around CAD. Now, as far as actual part design in a single plane, I can handle that. It's not too hard. But as far as like working in SolidWorks or in a 3D world where you can render an object such as an LS block and put your frame design and width in there and actually draw up a part in 3D, can't do it. Well, I say I can't do it. I've never tried, and I honestly don't have the room in my brain for anything else, I don't feel like. So we're gonna stick to what we know. And again, this is maybe rudimentary or crude to some people, but we like cardboard CAD. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a rough sketch out of what we intend to do, get some general measurements. We're gonna jot them down on a piece of cardboard, lay everything out nice with a square. We're gonna cut our pieces out. We're gonna tape everything together, and we're gonna actually make a cardboard mock-up of a motor mount before we cut anything. We actually have a transmission cross member already designed that we used on our 8800s that worked really well. This hunk of chunk here, fit up was really nice. This was actually designed for a Tremec TR4050. So I think the only thing that is really gonna have to change is the overall length of this, and I'm gonna have to shove this plate over about 1 inch and re-drill the holes for a 4L80E transmission bushing. So I think we've got this side worked out. Fingers crossed this is gonna happen. So hopefully that just leaves us completely designing from scratch the motor mount. So let's jump into it. All right, so we're gonna sneak our hands in here, and we are hoping, well, actually, no, we're not hoping. We know that the engine is in there centered, and these mounts should be symmetrical. Let's see what we got. Excuse me. Excuse. All right, so we've got our measurements: 4 3/4, 5 1/4, and then 5 1/8. So 5 1/8 is actually going to be the center line measurement. All right, so I'm happy with this. So we've also had a swag off-road press brake for some time. We actually upgraded it to a set of offset dies, and I put an air over hydraulic cylinder on that thing. I should have done that years ago. The thing's awesome now. So we can cut these, put a score line in there, and we can actually break this piece on an angle so that it sets on the contour of the chassis. So the next thing that I'm gonna have to do is get a measurement on the bushing. And as this piece comes off of the chassis, we've got a bushing that welds to the end of this. So the bushing is going to be welded along the top edge, but now we're going to have to radius this lower piece underneath the bushing to kind of cradle it and hold it in place so it's not just floating in thin air. So we're going to do that. So the bushing sleeves we're running are a 2-inch OD piece of DOM. So we're going to just give us a 2-inch circle on here so that we can kind of envision how we're going to be building off of these. And this is basically how our bushing is going to come together. Now the only thing that's going to get weird is back here. Obviously we're going to have to figure out where the chassis is. So I'm going to get some more measurements. And just like that, we have managed to connect the dots. All right, so the hard part's done. Now all we have to do is transfer our measurements over to a CAD program, and then we'll be ready to cut these out and do a test fit. All right, so we got the part drawn up, and I'm actually fixing to load it into our SheetCam program. And what SheetCam does is it actually writes the code for the machine software to recognize. I kind of explained this in the other video where we did the put the assembly of the table and kind of ran you through the process, so I'm not going to dig too much into that. And I'm also not going to bore you with me piddling around trying to actually draw the part, because I am probably slower than most. And we're going to zero out the table, and we're going to let her eat. And just like that, we've banged out a part. And you know, we blasted out the little ohhhh guy in the middle of this dude. Thank you, Mike Moore, for actually designing this cut file. We had to refine it a little bit, but Mike drew this up for us. I'm gonna throw this in the brake and break it up, and then we'll get a test fit on it. Nope, 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 nope. Yeah. So after several design changes, we obviously settled on these. Just had to make a couple of minor tweaks to get them to fit perfect. I think we've got it though. I think this is gonna be the bee's knees. I'm gonna slide these guys in, and if these fit and hold the engine in tight, I think we can move on to cutting some heavy steel. Oh, baby. Yeah, I think by the time we cram this other one in there, it's gonna hold her snug. In case you're wondering where I disappeared to, I am under the truck. Ugh. Everything looks like it fits nice and tight. The only thing I don't like is the way that one piece is broken, but we can fix that by giving her a little smidge more breakage. These guys will be ready to rock and roll. And the other side is a bit tougher to see, but there she be. All right, so we got these guys blasted out of some 3/16 plate. And we're gonna throw them in the hydraulic press, and we're gonna break these. So we got these guys broken into shape, and now we're gonna do a little bit of cleanup on them. I'm gonna actually test fit these guys before I weld them. I'm gonna go ahead and clean the chassis up. I'm gonna slide them into place, and if everything looks happy, I'm actually gonna tack them on the chassis. All right, so we're gonna dive in here, and we're gonna go ahead and clean the frame rails up a little bit where we've previously marked where the mounts go. So yes, I am using a cutoff wheel. One thing I like to do is actually take a cutoff wheel and knock the grime and trash off of the chassis first instead of using a flapper disc. It breaks through the stuff a lot better. I know it's not ideal. You really shouldn't use the edge of a cutoff wheel, but if you're light and easy with it, it's not really that dangerous. And then once you get that, most of the crust knocked off, you can actually go back with a flapper wheel. It just saves it from packing up a good flapping disc, and makes your consumables last a lot longer. So we got this one side knocked off. I'm gonna jump underneath the truck and get to this other side. It's hard to get to this one with the gearbox, power steering gearbox in the way. So I'm gonna climb underneath it, knock what scuzz off I can, and then we'll get the flapper wheel after it, clean everything up, and then we'll be able to start hopefully putting motor mounts in place and getting stuff tacked up. All right, so we got the passenger side fit up and it's slid into place. Now, we'll have to put this one in with the bushing, just as you would drop the engine in from the top. You can't really sneak these guys in here. It looks like I really dig the way these things fit up. I think I'm gonna be happy with them. Now, let's see. Oh yeah, boy, she's in there. I dig it. I'm gonna pull some measurements, make sure nothing's shifted, make sure our crank is still center line, make sure it's pushed back where it needs to be, and then make sure our tail shaft on the transfer case is center lined, and then we're gonna drag out the old glue gun and see if we can't make this thing stick. That's it. She lives there, boys. Whew. All right. Well, it's been a long day. I believe that is all I have in me today. We'll catch you guys out here tomorrow. Well, we're back out here at it again. I've spent some time this morning and drawn up a couple of different options for cross members and finally settled on one that I'd like. Sadly, with this option, we are not going to be able to retain the flat belly pan that I'd fought so hard to achieve. Where the yoke is for the front output is just too low, and I actually have to put like a drop down. And with the 205, it's not feasible to go over it. Not really the end of the world. I don't love it. I don't hate it. What I have done is I've incorporated into the cross member the ability to build a skid pan under the cross member itself and under the bottom of the transfer case. So we've checked and double checked our measurements. We've already built a set of frame tabs for the other cross member. So now all we have left to do today is throw a piece of sheet metal in the plasma cutter, blast out a part, weld it all together, and just do a rough fit up and make sure everything fits. So let's do that. All right, so we got our parts blasted out, and as you can see, this is what we've ended up with. This is going to be a dropout for the exhaust clearance, and this is going to be for around the transfer case yoke. Now, this is what I was referring, being less than thrilled about, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put an attachment point in the bottom of this thing that we can bolt a cross member in, and then we'll have some gussets and tabs, and there'll actually be a pretty beefy cross member underneath this thing. So not the end of the world. These are our frame tabs, and here are the brackets that actually weld to the frame. This gets broken on a 90-degree angle, like so. These weld to the bottom side of this, and this is your frame attachment point. Now, I already see one issue, which is why we cut these things. My bolt hole is too far up. I needed to be flush with the bottom of the frame. I'm gonna have to actually drop the center line of my bolt hole. What are we at? Centered 1.5 inches. We need to be centered at 2 inches. So I need to drop my bolt holes on the actual cross member itself 1/2 inch. And another thing I need to do is I actually set a divot in this. This is the piece that's going to weld into the cross member area for the transmission mount bushing. I only put a divot in one side, so I need to fix that. And this is our spine. This is the piece that's actually going to go inside of this. So we need to break it and make sure it's happy. So I'm going to throw some brakes in it. We like to get as close to a real world fit up as we possibly can. That way we know that these parts work. And again, that we're not going to waste a bunch of more expensive steel making this happy. good enough for what we're trying to do with it, but hopefully that gives you a good solid idea of what we're going for here. And that's a big nasty cross member. I definitely do think I'm gonna go ahead and box that in on these edges. That'll definitely tighten it up some. So, like I said, we're gonna drop these bolt holes down 1/2 inch. And I think we can go ahead and get this guy cut and welded out. All right, so a little bit of cleanup and there it is in all its glory. Let's see if our studs happen to fit the, oh, I've got to cut some stuff off of here, I forgot. Yep, well, the good news is it's gonna fit the chassis well. And I think, actually I really like that. Yeah, boy, yeah. I'm actually gonna have to cut off the old emergency brake cable mount and part of the old emergency brake retainer bracket on this side too. So let me grab a face shield, make that happen. And I would really like to get this guy tacked into place today. That would be a good day. Oh man, I'm tired. I feel like it's been a long day. Design process of this is definitely a big part of it, and it takes forever. So two things are gonna have to happen. I didn't think about having to tighten these bolts up. So I'm gonna have to take a hole saw, cut 2 holes in the bottom of this so I can get a socket through there. No big deal. I have to jack this up and push that jack stand forward a little bit so I have enough room to actually assist myself pick this guy up. So we're gonna modify this and then we'll be right back. Cross member holds itself up. It's good. There's not a whole lot of room under here and it's pretty dark, but you can see here, this is where the exhaust is gonna come through. We're in a 3-inch. I'm pretty sure that's enough room for a 3-inch. And obviously I want to retain this heat shield. And then you can see here, we've got the drop down. Give you a view from the other side. Well, YouTube, I believe that's about a wrap for this video. We're gonna yard the engine and transmission back out of this guy, go ahead and finish weld the engine mounts and the transmission mounts that attach to the frame and get everything spruced up, painted, get this guy put back in there. Probably the next time I see you, we'll start slamming the wiring harness in this guy. We'll catch you then. Of course, I appreciate you all at home taking the time to watch these videos, and as always, enjoy.